Hey, I'm Leon, and I was formerly top 25 in the world for 5x5 average. Unfortunately, it is still formerly. But anyways, I'm just going to be showing you some cool L4E tricks I've learned in the past, I don't know, like 3-4 years I've been doing 5x5, and figure I'd just share it with you guys, because I don't know, I feel like being nice today, because you know, Chinese New Year, ha ha ha. Okay, so I think the first thing that's pretty well known is this trigger right here. What this essentially does, it replaces two of the edges in the F12 slices to be solved edges. So then when you rotate here, all you have to do is just cycles and flips and stuff like that. So it makes look ahead much easier. The problem with this is that this isn't always the best thing to do in every single scenario. So there is a rule that I sometimes follow whenever I get to L4E. This is something that I asked Kaiwan Wang on Twitter like a few years ago. And basically what he told me is that he would only do this trigger if there's like a decent amount of blocks. Like for example, there's this block and this block. So then when you do that trigger, you actually just have to do cycles and then that's it. Oh my god, cycles. Is that a GD reference? Let's say there isn't any blocks. Like, I don't know how I'm supposed to force that, but let's see here. Okay, something like this, where there's absolutely no blocks. If you do that, I guess you could still like figure it out, but it's not gonna be like as easy. Another downside to that is if you do end up doing this trigger, that pretty much eliminates you from ever doing the M prime U2 M trigger. And what that pretty much is for these types of cases where you have two outer wings solved, and then you only have the midge left, and all you have to do is just that, and then that pairs up the edge. If you do this trigger, you're not going to be able to do that ever again. There's also something like this, where it's on the other side like this, and if it lines up correctly, you can do a U2 first, and then the M prime U2 M thing. Yeah, you know. So that's pretty much it for the 5-move trigger. So now let's move on to like actual like general L4E stuff. So one trigger that I do want to show you first before I move on to the next cases is this. Now, you can use this trigger for a bunch of cool cases that might be annoying to solve in a regular L4E way, I guess. And one of these cases is actually the one that I got on my sub 40 single, which was NR at the time, and it's something like this, where you have a midge, and then the two outer wings are like, I don't know how you say it, it's like they're on the same slice, but they're like diagonal from each other. And what you do here is you want to pair up the edge that lines up with the midge, like this, and then you do the trigger that I mentioned before, and then that solves the edge. If it was this edge that lined up to here, for example, you just move it here and then do the slice there, the trigger I mean, and then it will be solved over there. And of course, the trigger still works if two of the outer wings are on the D layer as well. You can do that, do the trigger, and it still works just fine. Now another use for this trigger is a case like this, the green-yellow one still. Usually you have to take out an unsolved edge from the back or wherever it is, pair it up, and then replace it with the unsolved edge. But you can actually solve this using the trigger without having to do a cycle, which is just slicing either the top or the bottom one, it doesn't really matter. But usually I just like to do the top slice, do the trigger, and then boom, look at that, it's solved. Let me just demonstrate it using the D slice instead, and it still works. Look at that. Okay, now we're gonna dive into like really specific examples that you can't really like guarantee that you're gonna get, but these are like sometimes common. I don't really know. Okay, so the first thing is if you have a slice flip slice case like this in your L4E, if it was this, for example, you have to insert normally and then do that. But something you can actually do here is you don't really have to insert. You can just you can just R prime, do the flip, and then R again. So you don't have to insert. I don't really know if this saves that much of time, but you know, this is just something cool that you can do, I guess. And then same for if it's the other way around. If it's the edge in here and then the slice flip slice case is on the top, you could like, you know, you could do that. That's so yeah. Okay, and the final specific case, this one is the coolest one that I know. So sometimes you might have L3E instead of L4E, which is, it's normal, you know, you're not always going to get L4E. But this is a case that is somewhat common, and it is pretty easy to solve, because if you have something like this, you can just like take out the parity edge, I guess, and then do a cycle, and then you have slice of slice, which is pretty cool. But obviously that takes a lot of moves, and if you're ever in a scenario where all 3 pieces are in the E slice, there's something cool you can do. So pretty much what you do is you make the 2 almost solved edges completely like opposite from each other. So the edge that is not where it's supposed to be are like not in the same slice. So in this one it's here, and then this one is on the top. So they're like not in the same slice. And then what you do is you want to move these unsolved pieces towards the parity edge. So in this case, I move this one here, and then move this one to here. And then we do a flip, and then we fix the slices, and then look at that. It's solved. Isn't that pretty cool? And yeah, that's pretty much it for the L4E tips and tricks. Let me know if you want me to do this for other events that I can do as well, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.